Maybe I have to unmute them. Oh, there they are. Hey, Jan. Jan, you must have, I mean, you must have loved this as a brand guy yourself.
Yeah, very much so. Thank you, Bruce.
Oh, thank you. Hello.
Yeah. So we have a bunch of our regulars here, and they may or may not talk to you depending on, I don't know whether they feel like it or not. But I'm not. I'm going to continue talking to you. We've got Joey, we've got Bob, we've got Jan, we've got some people that just don't come off a video or they just want to hear and see. And so I will let them see if they want to step in. Otherwise, I've got a ton of things to talk to you about.
It's T-shirt day, it seems like. Everybody's got their T-shirts on.
Dude, every day is T-shirt day now. I had to put on long pants for something last week and my legs started screaming. Like, oh, what's that?
It has been a while, hasn't it? Especially with the heat wave here in the Northeast, it's definitely been shorts and T-shirt weather for sure.
Well, I live in Miami and right now I'm in the Florida Keys, so it's always shorts and T-shirt weather for us.
Right.
You know,
great show. What a great show.
It was a great show.
Again.
Something that occurred to me when you were talking with Joseph, Bruce, is this idea of it's about the chorus, not the verse. And I don't know if you call it an exception, but the way that Patagonia, Joey Dumont would know this best, the way that Patagonia brands itself is almost using the verse. In other words, they're putting it so out there that here's where we're failing. Help us to succeed. There are things about our product, very specifically the way it's made, the fabric, the color, that we're not quite happy about, but it's the best we can do now. The total transparency of their verse almost creates their chorus. You know what I mean? So I thought, that struck me as you were talking. I
am familiar with Patagonia and Chouinard and all of that, but I certainly don't know that brand well enough to have noticed that. But I will watch for it now because that sounds like a fascinating way to.
I think Joey could speak more accurately, but I think their chorus is about the planet. It is about it is definitely about the planet, but a lot of people are about the planet, and they separate themselves by saying, we're not just going to say that we're in it for the planet. We're going to say we're not even there yet. So they have actual devices that reveal what their problems are. And then they improve it over time. And that endears me to them even more than knowing that they're for the planet.
Right.
Yeah. So Bruce, my partners and I shot a documentary in 2012 called The Naked Brand. And much you talked about earlier about transparency with, these supercomputers in our purses and pockets, and you take a picture of a cockroach. That idea, basically, we wanted to go and do some homework on. So Yvon Chouinard was one of the CEOs we interviewed back then, and he started something called the Footprint Chronicles in 2007. And that was where you could actually jump on their website. And if this is a garment from Patagonia, you could actually push in your SKU number. It would tell you where they sourced the material, where they sewed it up, the carbon footprint to ship it across the pond. And then if you bought a jacket for skiing, as an example, they even put the chemicals they used to treat the jacket for waterproofing and how deleterious it was to planet Earth. And so what they invited their users or their customers to understand is, hey, we're doing everything we can to save the planet. And that's been Yvon Chouinard's, big piece of work ever since he started the company. He was a blacksmith who actually started climbing gear that wouldn't scar the mountain. And that's just who he is. And I think that's the authenticity piece that we also glommed onto with the story, was that he is who he is. And because of the pace of the pack is dictated by the speed of the leader kind of thing, it permeates out to every single cast member at Patagonia. And so that's, I think, what Jan was referring to. And it was one of the coolest stories I've ever been a part of in my history in the ad world. So
sounds fascinating. I didn't, again, because I'm not a customer, nor am I a climber, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's cool. He's a mensch on every front. And he's also a falconer, which it's one of those things where, like, I've never met anybody that has falcons land on their arm before, but the guy every time you peel him, he's just got another layer of cool.
Falconing doesn't actually seem like it would be consistent with who he is, because most animal rights activists will tell you that any kind of raptor control is actually, you know, not something that is good for the planet or good for the birds or good for, so that's an interesting combination. But those dichotomies also make for fascination, don't they?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm a good person, but I just have one vice. I really like, I'm a falconer. But,
it is a pretty cool thing, though. I mean, how many people on their business card says falconer?
Yeah, and it's like, if you don't like it, just falcon off. So just, you know, it was either that or a Scooby-Doo impression. But
I'd stick with Scooby-Doo, pal.
But Bruce, there's something else that I also, you know, pick up on that, which is the us versus them. You know, going back to what Joey was saying, how many brands? I've been really like marinating on this idea for a while. How many brands actually have the ability to stand up and go, you know what, help us, or we haven't got it all figured out, or we're not quite sure what to do or what to say, or how to do this. Can you work with us? Or it's a bit of weakness, vulnerability, or just the ability to say, we don't actually have all the answers.
Well, Dale Carnegie said probably 100 years ago, 80 years ago, if you want to make a friend, ask for help. It's very, not ask for a favor. He was very clear, but ask for help. Back to the cable company that says our number one concern is your health, and we know that's complete and utter BS. How many times do you finish an online transaction, get back from a hotel, get off an airplane or whatever, and you get that survey? We really want to know what you think. I feel the same way about those surveys that I feel about those automatic calendar programs. They don't give a crap what I think. They want to verify my email address. They want to see the things that I supported so they can run the AI programs and figure out what I have the highest propensity to purchase in the future. Because I've checked them. I've written all kinds of things on them to see what kind of responses and answers I get. The only time anyone responded was Ritz Carlton when I complained about something, and they called back almost immediately, but then they sent me to a particular department and I never heard from the guy again. So the truth is they don't care. That's not a matter of authenticity. So when you say that Patagonia cares, that they show you these things and then they ask for input and they try to make it better and you believe it, I would say that's an enormous, enormous coup that they've scored. That they're doing what everybody else does on some level, but they've done it in such a way that two of you used the word authentic and Joe said mensch. I mean, that's like the highest compliment there could be to my grandfather. So clearly they've done something very, very right.
The other day, I contacted AT&T, or AT&T contacted me with one of those surveys because I had just switched my cell service, and they gave me free HBO through my phone. But you had to go through this and click that and to do this. And after about the fifth step, I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I'm fairly technically savvy, and I couldn't figure it out. And they sent me the survey and they said, so how do you like the new HBO service? 1 through 5. And then was it easy to do? And leave us some comments and let us know how we can do better. And so I left a comment and I said, I couldn't figure out how to make the thing work. It's not why I signed up for this service. I'd love it if it worked, but show me how. I can't seem to figure it out. And not a peep, of course. I haven't heard back from them since. So it's a complete BS.
Because they're not set up for that.
Because they don't care.
Well, I also think what's interesting, and Bruce, I'd love your thoughts on this, is when the world went to hell and when COVID hit, what happened with customer service in general is it took an absolute nosedive. Mm-hmm. And it shouldn't have. I mean, on one hand, for example, I still haven't been able to actually get anyone from Zoom after 3 months of having a problem, which I basically ended up sorting out myself. Turns out I couldn't get video as a virtual background. And the reason was that my computer was too old. You would think that a company the likes of Zoom, with a market capitalization more than the top 5 global airlines combined, would have been able to figure out a way to serve and service this jackpot, right? This boon of an influx or inflow of customer service with everybody operating from home. It's fascinating how companies didn't double down and triple down on executives, on every single person that worked for these companies saying, hey, we're going to figure out how to put you on this thing called customer intimacy or customer engagement.
I had the same experience with Zoom also. I'm still waiting. I get emails from them saying, hey, you're still in the queue. We'll be in touch. And it's been 2 or 3 months. And I ended up just buying a whole new plan because my plan got absorbed by some other plan and couldn't access it. So I ended up just having to buy a whole new one and solving my problem that way. It was ridiculous.
To continue our bad comedy references, I think that Monty Python pretty much explained it. Or no, excuse me, maybe it was Faulty Towers, but regardless, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody saw this coming. Mm-hmm. And when you say you would think a company with a market cap of and on and on and on, why would you think that? They're no better at what they do or worse than what they do than any of us. They're just a hell of a lot bigger with a hell of a lot more people protecting their turf, working on what they do. So if someone comes to you and you're the director of customer service at Zoom and says, oh my God, people are not going to be able to go outside for the next anywhere from 3 months to a year. What an opportunity. Joe, I need you to do these 5 things. You don't say, woohoo, now look at all this market opportunity we have. You say, oh, great, more work for me. Now I have to do that, right? It's, you know, I don't know why we keep thinking that other people, other companies, other professions do stuff right when they don't. Just like we look at other people and think they're all fully formed human beings that have everything figured out and no insecurities and no nothing, when they're just like us. They're just these amorphous blobs of trying, striving, working, hoping. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. It's the same with
I'm gonna have to see your bad movie reference and raise you a I'm gonna need you to contact. Yeah, I'm gonna need you to contact those 5 customers. Okay. but it's true. It's true what you said. I mean, it's the problem is at the line. Even though these are people that still have a job and should be thanking their lucky stars on a minute by minute basis, they're still seeing it as another item on their to-do list. And I always say, you know, everything comes down to one word. Ultimately, when you think about organizational dynamics, and it's the C word, compensation. If you pay people based on what they're worth, or you incentivize them, and it doesn't, by the way, compensation doesn't have to always be monetary. That's the only way that you get people to care at the very bottom, as opposed to the fat cats, you know, on top that are counting down the days for that, you know, parachute to land safely. But I think compensation is a big part of that. It shouldn't have to always be, but I just think it is.
If that were true, then people who work for tips would provide much better service. So I'm not entirely sure that that's always accurate.
That's why you're my new BFF too, because there's just great sparring. But I mean, yeah, I mean, we got to get into that psychology as well. Why people don't. And by the way, Bruce, to just make your point, which essentially makes me disagree with myself, which is weird. Have you ever noticed that when you go into a restaurant, just at the moment of truth, when the bill is brought, they seem to disappear? And I'm like, now is not the time for you to drop the ball, bucko. You know, now's the time for you to start to you know, burst into your Scooby-Doo impressions.
I grew up in the restaurant business, and I used to work in a lot of my parents' restaurants. And at one point, I guess when I was in college, I started working in one of the nice restaurants, and as a waiter, and I would always make more tips than everyone else who worked there. And I couldn't really figure out why. Eventually I did. First of all, I knew I wasn't going to be a waiter the rest of my life, so I was actually having fun, and it was a great place to meet girls and to make money. But I also figured out there was a really, really difficult algorithm. If you're nice to people, they give you money. If you're not, they don't. Yeah, I know, write it down, right? And I would, like, the waiters would complain in the back, oh, that woman, she yelled at me. I go, dude, she's not mad at you. She just got here. Her husband's cheating on her. Her son failed out of school. She doesn't like the way the pimple on her, whatever. It's not you. Get over it. Be nice to her. And then I tried to explain to them, listen, when they're done with their meal, you say anything else, they say no, right? Can I get you anything? No. If you say, your meal was wonderful, wasn't it? They go, yeah, it was pretty good. You can say, well, you know what's even better? Our cappuccinos are amazing. Now, here's the thing. A cup of coffee with milk and sugar is the exact same thing as a cappuccino. It's milk and sugar and coffee, except with about 20 seconds of, except at the time, a cup of coffee was 35 cents and a cappuccino was $3.50. Plus, if one person at the table says, oh, I'll have one of those, every other person at the table says, oh yeah, you have decaf cappuccino? Yes, we do. And so now the check average just went up $20. You get a percentage of that. Plus, the minute they agree to cappuccino, at least one person will say, I want a cheesecake. Then I say, I'll bring 6 spoons. And then they go, oh, you better bring 2. Now you better bring 3. Now the bill just went up $35. Plus everyone's full of sugar and caffeine. So they're really happy. And I'm not telling you all this to teach you how to wait on tables, but I would get an additional $7 in my tip. Plus the boss, it wasn't my dad, it was the manager of that restaurant, was always happy. And I would try to explain this to these other waiters. Oh no, I don't have time for that. That's your freaking job. Nowadays, if you say to a waiter, hey, can I have a glass? Well, not anymore because we don't go to restaurants, but when we did, hey, could I have a glass of water? What's the answer you get? No problem. And I want to say, of course it's no goddamn problem. It's your job. And I'm the one who gives you money. You should ask me if I want still or sparkling, if I want a lot of ice or a little ice. Would I like the Albanian virgin water or do I want tap water? But they don't get it. If you're nice to people, they give you money.
So Bruce's new book, his new book is called The Cappuccino Economy. And that sounds like a newsletter article, man.
I think that's going to be a new one. Yeah, the cappuccino effect.
The cappuccino effect. And by the way, forget about the difference between coffee and cappuccino. That also demonstrates when people still struggle to understand the Starbucks effect. And they go, but it's overpriced bad coffee. I'm like, well, the bad coffee might be accurate, but overpriced, well, that's subjective because that's an expression of value. But ultimately, the Starbucks experience transcends the functional benefit, obviously, of just being able to even see the milk, and the sugar and the water and the etc. And people just, and it's amazing, by the way, to your point, right? Everybody sits at a table. It's a good metaphor for brands in general. They're all leaving anyway. They're all waiting at the table for the awkwardness of one person just to say, you know what, I'll have a double espresso. And then to your point, right, Bruce, everybody joins in. And everybody was looking for that excuse. Exactly. L'chaim.
I worked at a box store that sold kitchens. I used to design kitchens and ended up being told and being walked out of the store because I would leave my department with a woman who just spent $20,000 on kitchen cabinets, and I would take her to the appliance department and say, now this is the one that has the stainless steel and here's the range that'll fit in between. Wouldn't you like those too? And so I would always inflate my sale up to $40,000, but those sales always went through the appliance department and I never got credit for them. So all they saw was me leaving my department, and they ended up letting me go because I was not covering my cubicle the way I was supposed to be. So I did not get rewarded in the way that I should have. But
to my knowledge, the only retailer that understands that well enough to allow that to happen is Nordstrom's, where the salespeople are free to walk the floor. So after you buy the gown or the tuxedo, they say, now, do you have the right shoes? Come on, let's go find them. And apparently the different salespeople understand that they can also go into your department. So they're not mad that you're showing up with this man or woman and you're going to get a $200 or $300 or $500 sale that they would have gotten because they wouldn't have gotten it because the person would have left.
My sister used to wait tables when I was in junior high, and I remember her always talking about how, not always, but she told me the story about how she would go to the table at the end, and instead of asking, do you want anything else, she would say, the chef, and I use that term lightly because I know where she worked, but the chef just took an apple pie out of the oven. Wouldn't you like me to bring you a piece? And 9 times out of 10, she said people would go for the apple pie because the chef just took it out of the oven, and boy, that's going to be good. So excellent story, and it is for real.
That's beautiful.
For sure.
I love that. That's beautiful.
So
well, I mean, I love the stories. You know, I love the metaphors, and I think to me the red thread in many respects is and I started my career, Bruce, when we spent some time together, which I hope we will. I'll tell you about my days of working for Nando's Chicken Land, the taste of Portugal, and the QSR business. But I'll tell you, I used to train our they weren't franchisees, they were joint venture partners, and they would always, you know, they would always see me as the devil, the marketing guy who, you know, came down from his ivory tower to tell them how to run their business. And so I would always start off every time I did training, and I was, you know, 22, 23 years old. I would walk in and I'd say, listen, let me just tell you something. And I would say, marketing knows shit. I'm like, we don't know we pretty much don't know what we're talking about. You guys are the magic of the store. This is where all the magic happens. But then what I would do is, and this was butterfly cut flame grilled chicken. So it looked, I don't know, something like that. And I would draw the outline of the butterfly cut chicken. And then I would say, and let's just say in South African Rand terms that the price was 30 Rand. And they would start off by going, you know, our prices are too expensive, people are complaining, you know, and complaining about everything. So I'd say, okay, how much would you pay for a really great tasting piece of chicken? So it'd be like 8 Rand. I go, okay, how much would you pay for the fact that it's cooked well? Like as in no salmonella, it's not dry, but just cooked just right. And then they'd be like, I guess 3 Rand. And then I go, how much would you pay for it tasting the same every single time consistently? And then they would add more. And then I would keep, how would you pay for great customer service? How much would you pay for attitude? Because Nando's was known for attitude and irreverent advertising. And I would go through all of these things and I'd go, okay, now I want you to add everything up. And it came to like 42 Rand. And I'd be like, so don't tell me that we're priced too expensively. You know, your customer just got a 12 Rand deal in terms of what they would have paid for and what they got back in return. And I just think, like, listening to you today, that word value, we spoke about, you know, perception is reality, the perception in terms of messaging. But I also think there's a huge perception of value. And I think when you make it about them, as you've written about, that's when I think companies really start to understand the power and potential and importance of value, customer perceived value.
That was cool, Joseph. That kind of redefines or makes it clearer for me what the word premium means. You know, premium is the application of brand. You know, hopefully it's honest, otherwise a brand fails. But it's, you know, it doesn't mean it's a better or worse product. It shouldn't. It should be the honest product, and the brand has applied things to it.
I'm gonna let Bruce respond to that and give him the final word because it's time to wind down. What do you think about that, Bruce?
Well, I have a number of observations. First of all, it's not lost on me that you have strategically chosen the Freddie Mercury spot in your virtual photo. I think that
you figured me out already.
You either need to have enormous talent or enormous balls, one or the other. And I haven't heard you sing, so I'm going to give you the benefit of the. Number 2, Nando's chicken, the taste of Portugal. Now you want to talk about answering the question nobody's asking. That's just a fascinating way to market. And when you said about that they were seen for being cheeky, I was wondering if they could pull off the Chickendales. because, you know, maybe you could take it international and move Chippendales, although I don't know if the Chippendales metaphor would make any sense in South Africa, but it seems like there's a real opportunity to get some more money back on that footage. I think the point of value, there's the whole other point, which is, how do you feel about the decision? I will tell you that the decision to eat Kentucky Fried Chicken or Popeyes or whatever those foods you might enjoy has to be a taste-based decision. Ooh, I love the crunch, I love the salt. Because you don't feel like, wow, I'm making the right choice as far as health goes or any of those things. But it's okay because we eat ice cream even though we know it's not necessarily good for us. So there's this whole concept of, how does the experience make you feel? I recently read an interview with the new CEO of Porsche, and he talked about the fact that 3 of their most important markets, which is the US, China, and Northern Europe, not counting Germany, he said all have very clearly regulated speed limits. Yet those are 3 of their most important markets for cars with more than 600 horsepower. And he was saying there's absolutely no need for these automobiles in any of those markets if it's based on function. But when you say, how does it make you feel? Well, all of a sudden, it makes a lot of sense. And I've been talking about that in my speeches a lot. I always talk about the people who drive SUVs. My wife had an SUV, you know, these big, powerful vehicles designed to go over ice, over snow, over broken pavement, up mountains, ford rivers, dirt. We live in Miami. We have no ice, no snow, no mountains, no dirt roads, none. Or I say, before you think I'm making fun of you, how many people drive sports cars designed to go 150 miles an hour on the Autobahn? We live in Miami. You can't go 35 miles an hour on I-95 except at 4 in the morning. So it's not about what the product does. It's about how it makes you feel. Everything you said about that chicken was absolutely correct. Beautifully cooked, beautifully prepared, consistent. You can always count on it, on and on and on. That's the value proposition that every accountant and every business person looks at. As marketers, I would say we add one more, which is, how much would you pay for the way it makes you feel? Now, nobody can really answer that, unfortunately, because they'll tell you, when you say, how do you feel? People tell you what they think. They don't tell you what they feel. And we don't know how to apply dollars to that because most companies give that away. Just like most of you who are in advertising or marketing understand why the advertising agency business is going under, because we give away our most valuable asset, which is our ideas, and then we charge for implementation. Then Boston Consulting comes in and says, we charge you $1 million for the ideas. You do your own damn implementation. We'll charge you $100,000 a month to make sure it's okay. And when it works, we get 7%. And all of us ad guys are going, how did they do that?
Right? I know. Yeah.
So, and it's so true. And when I speak at ad functions, now that I no longer own an ad agency, I can say it. But it's the same with restaurants. All of the stuff you were talking about is what we give away. And that's where the value is. And I just wonder how we move forward to take advantage of that.
That is a probably good open-ended question and challenge. I feel like you're the first guest, you're probably number now 62 or 63 that has actually given us homework, Bruce. So I'm going to think about that and I'm going to respond to you. But
I would love that. I would love that. My email address, by the way, is just my name. It's bruce@bruceturkel.com. So if any of you have thoughts on this, I'd love to hear them and correspond with you on it. And we can do it through Joseph. I don't want to steal your thing here. We can do it through your situation, however you like, through your queen setup there, whatever you like. But I would love to hear what you all think about that.
Yeah, that's and in fact, I've got some interns working for me. Maybe I'll give them some homework to do. I'll pass the homework back.
Please do.
It will. But Bruce, thank you for your very generous and precious time. It was an absolute treat. I've got a whole bunch of comments that were sent to me privately, which is, you know, put Bruce on your guest to return on the show list. You're in pole position at the moment, and Haiti just responded to the whole group as well. Just I'll read it because, you know, we're in the Zoom room. Thanks for a great conversation, Joe and Bruce. Look forward to a new book. Bruce sounds great. I missed the beginning. Going to need to see the Chippendales. No, you don't.
No.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Consider yourself lucky. But guys, thanks all for being on the show today. I'm going to just stop the live stream. Tomorrow I have John Durham And he doesn't know, at least I'm not sure he knows, that I've been posting a photo of the other John Durham, just to tease him. John will be, and we're doing cocktails, Corona cocktails, which, by the way, Bruce, you're always also welcome to join us for, if ever you come back. We do cocktails at 5 or 6. And
Eastern time, Mountain time, Western. I mean, how do you know?
5 a.m. is what I was referring to, but the other thing to tell you, Bruce, is you're always very well. This is a little family that we've created here, a little community. Every day we meet, we invite people to join us, and sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. So it's almost like it's become like a panel. This is my version of The View. But I always say to my guests, you're welcome to come back anytime, right after the show. If you just feel like popping in and brainstorming a bit, you'll always be a VIP guest here.
So I will come back based on 3 things. Number 1 and number 2, I would like at some point to hear Joe and Steve play some music for us. And number 3, as long as Heidi doesn't dominate the conversation, because, you know, all that chatter, nobody can get a word in edgewise.
Hold on.
Oh, okay, you too. Wow.
Well,
you have a picture of Queen and you play music.
So listen, I will play my harmonica if you play your harmonica too.
Anytime.
All right, Bruce, have a great day, and I'll be in touch with a few different things to follow up, but it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, everyone.